Hi, welcome. My name is Kate Borsato. I'm a mental health therapist and I work with expecting women and new moms, and I'm all about helping you transition to motherhood in a way where you don't lose yourself. So to me, that's all about finding balance and joy and staying connected to yourself as much as you possibly can. If you're new here, I'd love for you to introduce yourself in the comments. Let me know where you're coming from and let me know what you need help with. I'm so happy to create videos based on what you need. Okay, that's what I'm doing here. I want to support you. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and also click the bell so that you get notifications when I post a new video, which is every single Wednesday. So today we are talking about 10 super realistic and simple ways that you can manage anxiety. It doesn't mean you have to go to therapy or take on like a whole new self-improvement plan, right? No, these are simple things that you can do to start managing your mood right away. So let's jump in. All right, so first of all, what is anxiety? Let's talk about that because culturally and in our society, we use that word all the time. Like I'm feeling anxious. Oh, I have so much anxiety about this. Like, so you might hear that word a lot. So let's talk about what that actually is. So anxiety is an experience of worry, of dread, of underlying uncertainty. Okay, so sometimes that sense of unease can become so huge that it actually would be considered an anxiety disorder. And that's something that you would have to talk to a doctor about. So that's when the feeling, the disruption and the fear gets in your way in your life so much that you can't really function the way that you want to, meaning you can't really work the way you want to work. It's really disrupting your ability to feel well and to connect with people and to do the things that you want to do. So that's when we would be concerned about it being an anxiety disorder. But what I'm talking about today is that underlying bubbling feeling of discomfort, of uneasiness, the worries, you know, that agitated kind of nervousness that you can feel for, you know, days. Sometimes it hangs around for days and it can be really uncomfortable. That's what I'm talking about today. It's so common to feel this during pregnancy and of course postpartum. Think about all the things that are changing in your life. Of course, these uncertainties and fears and confusion and worries are going to come up. Okay, so that's really normal, but I want to help you manage it in a way that feels doable. Okay, so let's talk about the 10 simple ways that you can wrap your arms around anxiety. Okay, so the first thing that I recommend is putting on a bit of a detective hat. Okay, and when I say that, I mean, I want you to like imagine being a detective really and looking at your life and trying to understand, when does my anxiety get bigger and when is it smaller? Okay, so even when we're feeling like a lot of anxiety, it's not always there or it's not always the same. So sometimes it will feel really hard and bad and awful, and then sometimes it's not so bad. So it changes, and you might be thinking, no, I feel it all the time. And I get that, you might, but it probably gets worse and then less bad, and then worse, and then less bad. So I want you to start to observe what happens with your anxiety. And when I say be a detective, it's like, get curious. When is it worse? When is it a little bit better? What makes it harder to deal with? What makes it easier? When do you get a break from it? When do you not? And you can start to learn about what types of things might trigger those feelings, okay? Because this is all about building your self-awareness. And once you understand what makes anxiety worse, then you can make a plan around those things. You can say, okay, well, I'm not gonna do X, Y, and Z because that makes me feel more anxious, okay? But if we're just walking around and we have no idea what's causing anxiety, it's really hard to start to make a change, okay? So the first step is to be a detective. All right, tip number 2, nourish your body. So yes, anxiety it's considered, you know, a mental health. So it's in your mind, it's in your brain, but your body and your whole physical being has a huge impact on your mental health, okay? So I want you to, again, notice, how are you taking care of your physical body? What are you putting into your body, right? So thinking of like, what do you know about you that makes you feel the best? Okay, and I know as a woman, as a mother, you're probably tuned into your body. You probably know, like, when I eat this thing, it doesn't make me feel good. It makes me feel tired. It makes me feel uncomfortable. So noticing those types of things, and also knowing that when you feel nourished and balanced and hydrated and physically well, that is only going to support your mental health. So just ask yourself, and you don't have to, do a food log or map it all out. That's not what I'm saying. But what I want is for you to just get curious about, is there any way that you can nourish your body even better than you are right now? The third tip, I'm going to piggyback on that, is to notice your caffeine. Okay, so you may or may not have felt this already, but when you consume a lot of caffeine, which I am still doing right now, it can just drive anxiety. Okay, so just check that out with yourself. What happens when you consume caffeine? How does it impact your mood? Does it make you feel more jittery? And just get curious if there's any changes you can make around there. We know that caffeine can really greatly impact anxiety and make it a lot worse. So if you're feeling anxious, I really encourage you to cut back on the caffeine. Okay? Tip number 4, do something for yourself, right? I know this is hard. I know this is not natural always for moms, but I find this, honestly, with every single mother I've ever talked to, supported, known, she is giving way more to everybody else than herself. And of course that makes sense. But what happens is that we forget about ourselves. We forget about our needs. We don't even listen to them. Okay. And you just take the back seat in every way. And I get that there's sometimes in life where it has to be that way. Like if you have a brand new baby, you're going to be prioritizing their needs. That makes sense, right? But I wonder if there's a way that you can actually do something for yourself. Is there something that you've been needing to do or really wanting to do? Okay, so I know for me, when I get into these phases where I'm just doing and giving, I start to feel resentful. It doesn't feel right. You really fall out of balance, and that can make anxiety worse. So as I say this, just ask yourself, what do I need to do for me? Is it having just some quiet time? Is it going for a walk? Is it going to connect with some friends? What is it that you need? You matter so much, and you deserve some time and resources and space, okay? Tip number 5, watch your self-talk, okay? So if you know me, if you've been following me on Instagram or on my website, you would know that I care a lot about self-talk and our inner critic and how we're treating ourselves, okay? So your inner critic is that internal voice that cuts you down, that tells you you're not good enough, that worries that you're not quite measuring up or you're not doing a good enough job. Now, as a mom, as a new mom, there are so many opportunities to criticize yourself. The problem is that it feels very attacking when we do that to ourselves. And this actually makes anxiety worse. Now, there's a whole bunch of research to back all of this up. We don't have time to go into that right now, and I also don't think you need to know all of that. But trust me, when we criticize ourselves, it literally activates your nervous system. It makes you feel threatened. And when you're in threat mode, that's that fight or flight mode, that makes anxiety worse. Right? So, and it makes sense, right? When you're anxious, you're hypervigilant, you're stressed, you're cautious, you're worrying. And when you criticize yourself, it puts you in threat mode. So of course it's going to make anxiety worse. So what we need to do is reframe that way of treating ourselves. Okay? If you can start by, first of all, just noticing your inner critic, noticing if you beat yourself up at the end of the day, if you lay in bed and say, wow, I was a crappy mom today, I'm the worst, or whatever it is that you criticize yourself about. Notice it for one, and then see if you can replace that thought with a kinder, more compassionate thought. It doesn't have to mean, you don't have to say, I love everything about myself. Like, no. But what if you could say, I did my best today. I had some hard moments, but I'm doing my best. It's a bit more neutral, it's kinder, and we know that when you treat yourself with compassion, it actually calms your nervous system, which directly reduces anxiety. I think this is like the coolest thing, and I'm gonna do some more videos about this, but just know that self-kindness reduces anxiety, okay? All right. So tip number 6, Move your body, okay? Now, I know that might be annoying to hear because I've been there. I've been in that exact same place of like, I know I need to exercise. I know. When am I gonna do it? But it doesn't have to be intense exercise. The point here is that any kind of movement, whether it's like dancing or walking or stretching, this is directly related to your mood and your mental health. Okay, so we know this across the board. Moving your body and exercise improves anxiety. So just take that in, make it into whatever way fits for you. Make it reasonable and realistic, but just see if there's any way that you can add some movement into your day. Okay. Tip number 7, prioritize sleep. This is a hard one. I get it. I remember in the postpartum days when my babies were little and everybody would always say that super annoying advice of like, sleep when the baby sleeps. I couldn't do it. I desperately wanted to stay awake and have some me time and just like not be on as a mother. And so if that's how you feel, that's okay. But just see if there's any other way where you can prioritize rest. Maybe it's in the evening, right? Maybe it's asking somebody to be with your child while you have a bit of rest. And if your kids aren't babies and you're not juggling that nap time business anymore, how else could you prioritize sleep? And it doesn't have to be always, right? Like I know those evening hours are so sacred and you might really want to stay up, but have you ever noticed that the later you stay up, the worse anxiety feels, okay? So I've noticed that. I know that's really common. So if you're in a phase where anxiety is feeling louder, then maybe it's time to just tighten up with your sleep a little bit, just temporarily, so that you can get rested and build those resources up in yourself again. Tip number 8, make anxiety your best friend. This is an interesting concept, but hang with me. I want to walk you through it. So instead of noticing anxiety coming up and being like, oh, I hate you. Why am I so anxious? I hate being anxious. That can cause a lot of tension within yourself because you're fighting a part of yourself. And so my suggestion is to see if you can listen to anxiety. So imagining that anxiety is almost a separate part of you and she's popping up for whatever reason. What is she needing? So if you can imagine that this is like a young part of yourself that's asking you for something. She's like, can you listen? I'm struggling here. If she could say something, what would it be, right? So how can you listen to anxiety? How can you perceive those symptoms as like a message from yourself, right? So in other words, let's imagine in the evening you start to feel anxious and you can find yourself like your thoughts are racing and you're feeling uncomfortable. If you pause and say, okay, what is anxiety saying to me right now? What do I actually need, right? So in a way, you're teaming up and you're thinking, okay, how can I support myself here instead of pushing and resisting the messages that you're getting, okay? Let me know if you have any questions about this. I'm so happy to clarify a little bit more. But the whole point with that tip is to not push parts of yourself away, to just accept these parts coming up and see if you can learn anything from them. All right, tip number 9 is to do something soothing. So whenever we feel anxious, your nervous system is kind of rattled, right? Again, that fight or flight mode is activated. You're up here. So what we need to do is actually bring your nervous system down to a relaxed state, and that is going to directly reduce anxiety, all right? So with that, I want you to ask yourself, what is soothing? What brings me comfort? And this could be super small things. This could literally be like wrapping yourself up in a super cozy blanket or putting some soothing music on or having a bath, right? Like this isn't just frivolous stuff, like have a bath just because it's bubbly and nice. Like it's not that. It's literally soothes your nervous system, which directly reduces anxiety, okay? So I always like to bring in some of the research because it helps you realize like this isn't just fluffy stuff to make you temporarily feel better. It really does work and it helps settle your brain. So think of anything that's soothing for you and try to weave some of those into your day. All right, so the last tip that I want to share with you today is what I call taking care of business. So have you ever noticed that when you're feeling overwhelmed, you've got a lot going on, some things can build up and it can feel like you've just got so much to do and you can't even figure out where to start. But when you start knocking things off your list, it actually feels really, really good. And I don't know about you, but for me, when I tick things off the list, I realized, oh, that wasn't even that big of a deal. That was actually not even that hard. And it feels so rewarding. So sometimes we need to actually take care of things and get some order in our lives, and that helps you feel less anxious. So maybe it's like putting your laundry away, or making your bed, or maybe like paying that bill that's been like bothering you. For me, sometimes I get stressed that I haven't written people back through email or text, things like that. So knock some of those things off your list, right? So taking care of business can help you feel more in control, like some things are going right, okay? So we don't want to focus all of our energy into that, but sometimes just checking a few things off your list can feel really, really good. So I hope that you can take some of these tips and put them into practice right away. Anxiety is a hard thing to sit with, and there's so many reasons it comes up. But I just want you to know that there are a lot of things that you can do to manage it. Now, I'm going to link below in the description of this video to a different video that I did that's all about managing burnout and overwhelm for moms. So I have a few more ideas in there. Make sure to check out the other videos that I have, because there's definitely some other things that you can learn and practice, and other ways that you can support yourself so that you cruise through this journey in motherhood in the best way that you possibly can. Thanks for being here. If you like this video, I would love for you to subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notifications whenever I post a new video. Thank you for being here. See you soon.